Well, the ANC did anticipate a fallout from its decision to nominate Thoko Didiza as its Tshwane mayoral candidate, but not to the extent that things have turned out. So what went wrong? Who should take responsibility? Our contributing editor, Vuyo Mvoko, sat down with the man running the ANC Party Secretary General, Gwede Mantashe.
Today was his birthday. But falling as it did this time around, on an eventful day that has seen the capital city on fire, the man running the ANC had more questions to handle than munching snacks, taking selfies, and indulging in cake. So where did it all go wrong?
We anticipated that there were going to be problems, but the extent is worrying us now. Because when we went to the conference, already there were signs of an RSC that was not pulling to the same direction. The intervention of introducing an ANC member to be the mayoral candidate was an intervention to pull those forces together. But they were already mobilizing, because our observation is that in Tshwane, which has been an issue that we've been talking about with bouncers and that, is that Tagari has moved too close to the politics in Tshwane. Comrades were so dug into their trenches. And we thought that let's intervene and put this candidate, but it didn't stop. As you would see that we get a lot of messages, a meeting yesterday where they come with a slogan that supports a candidate. Who accepts, both Sipute and Mapita have accepted that, listen, this intervention is acceptable to us, therefore we think we'll support and work with Thoko, both of us, they've accepted. So anybody who bans in their name is actually dragging their name into the mud unnecessarily so.
Was that process different from the one you followed elsewhere in other metros?
Yes, it was, and it is provided for, because what we do when we select candidate, regions propose 3 names, the province select 1. It is that recommend that is brought to the NEC, but the 3 are brought. On Tshwane, there was a view from the province that, listen, we need an intervention here, and try to pull these comrades together. They're fighting too hard for the city to survive that conflict. And we intervened.
How did you settle on the name Thoko Didiza?
We had the 3 names that were brought as intervention. It was Thoko Didiza, it was Professor Msuma, it was Gwen Ramkhupa. We eliminated Gwen immediately because we said, listen, Gwen was a mayor in Tshwane. We can't take her back there. Then we left with these 2 names. There was a long discussion. And the agreement was that Thoko Didiza was senior enough, serious enough, track record, that would confirm that he would perform as a mayor of the capital city of the Republic.
Have you spoken to her since the outbreak of the violence in that city?
When we were proposing her name, and therefore when we talked to her and she accepted, the region talked to her, the province talked to her, we confirmed that we have no problem with her. When that was settled, now that there is violence, the focus should be on doing away and eliminating the violence with her as part of the team.
Couldn't you have started the nomination process much earlier?
Actually, historically, there's never announced mayoral candidates before the elections.
So why then did you do it differently this time around?
This time around, we thought that time is changing. People want to know who the mayor is, who will be the face of the campaign in that town. And we said, let's start with metros and strategic cities. And that's what we have done. And there are no problems anywhere else. Actually, we handed over Dennis Jordan in Nelson Mandela on Sunday, and people there everywhere went, celebrated that. So we think that is the right thing to do. We'll go to all the other cities, introduce those mayoral candidates.
Any lesson that you've learned from this particular episode that will probably, or that may just affect how you select. And how do you think this episode will affect your chances? I mean, you hanging by a thread in Tshwane as things stand.
I don't think we're hanging by threads in Tshwane. We must just do the work. The fact that there is a problem and their engagement with people in Tshwane, that is important, because talking to communities there, as the meeting that is underway in Attersville now, those are the meetings that will actually determine the outcome. People need to be told and they need explanation, and once they accept the explanation, even if they are not so happy with it, it changes the situation.
But isn't this something that you are perhaps refusing to acknowledge as the ANC, that there are perhaps bigger questions, that people are prepared to risk life and limb because of the benefits that accrue from being a mayoral candidate or from being a councillor or supporting people in the run-up to the processes that have just been completed? I
don't know why you call us denying that. Because that is in the milieu of what we described as sins of incumbency, where people will go out of their way even when Sputler says, hey, listen guys, I support Thoko, I think it's the correct decision. Still people go out, and it sends a signal that is not mentioned in words, that who are these beneficiaries who think that they must go to war to have a particular candidate. That is not an issue that we have denied. We have been accepting that issue all the time. Patronage, use of money, beneficiaries in the processes, thugs that move close to processes and become tender beneficiaries in municipalities. We have never denied that. We say those are the problems. And I think Tshwane is having a very strong sign of that being the reality that we're dealing with. And in the process, you mobilize communities. Many of those thousands of people who become part of the march and become part of that don't know exactly what the beneficiaries plan. That's why in the meeting that was held yesterday, people were there, were a handful, about 10 or so, but the whole of the city is burning. Many of the people who are actually involved were not part of that planning meeting. They don't know the real driving force behind that issue. And that is the issue. And the biggest worry we're having, Vuyo, is the fact that when you deal with those issues, you have the United States that is having an interest on the issue. They issue a warning that there is a protest. Last week they issued a warning that during the month of the Ramadan, there may be something major happening here. That worries us a great deal, because we think that the embassy of the United States, if it has anything they think they want to share with us, they must share with us. Otherwise, they drive us into speculation and to suspicion.
What can be done in Tshwane to make sure that what we're seeing now will never happen again?
The problem with social science, Vuyo, is that it's not a natural science. Natural science is an exact science. You mix water and syrup, you produce cold drink. When you deal with social problems and social ills in society, you can't have a formula that gives you guarantees. The guarantee you should put is to work tirelessly in that area to eliminate the trends and the tendencies that are beginning to bedevil processes that are correct and genuine.